Hey there, guys, and welcome back to the Travis and Damian podcast, episode 151. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and more. Today, we are talking about the Game Awards, Mario and Luigi Brothership, The Penguin, and more. But as usual, we will begin with the recent activities. First up, finishing our discussion on Mario and Luigi Brothership. Even though we both haven't finished the game yet, we're just going to have this one last final discussion on the game itself. So I'm a little ahead of Damian, but I'm like 10, 15 hours in, something like that. And I think Damien's around that same point as me. But yeah, I mean, last time we talked about it very, I would say, positively, because we were only within like the first few hours of it. And we could start to see the cracks, sort of the gameplay being very slow in terms of pacing, not getting the hammers, the bros attacks, even like the spark plugs, like until hours and hours into the game. And I feel like those mechanics in and of themselves should have been introduced way sooner. And then some other things are popping up here and there. But as of right now, for me personally, I would definitely say that it's a good Mario and Luigi game and a sort of good Mario RPG, but it's far from perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I basically kind of feel the same way. Like, you know, I think the beginning of the game is definitely the roughest part about the game. Like you said, like, especially because I play these games a lot slower. So I really didn't get my first bros attack till like 4 or 5 hours in because I'm very slow. You know, I like to explore the place. Every time I reconnected an island, I like to go back and get the whatever the plug, not the plugs, the I forgot what they call it, the little collectibles you get to make the spark plugs or whatever. So, you know, I was going it very slowly. And, you know, I was really enjoying the animations of the characters. I think the game looks pretty great for what it is. But, you know, the story's very slow to get going. Like, basically nothing happens for the first, like, 5 hours besides, like, go connect islands together. And the combat's literally just jump on people and then use a hammer, right? I feel like the game really picks up after the first boss fight when you get your first bros attack, and then it really opens up once you get more bros attacks plus the battle plug system. Now I think the game is like really fun right now. Like I am really enjoying myself, but I think it does take a while to get to that point because, you know, there's not a lot of combat options to do. There's not like a lot of interesting story hooks to really latch onto, again, besides like connect the islands. But you know, once you do that first boss, which is great, like all the bosses have been really fun.
Yeah.
You know, Mario and Luigi's always been really good with their boss fights, but, you know, I just felt like it took a bit too long to get to that point where I could see why people like kind of like either drop the game or think pretty negatively of it before getting to that point. Because, yeah, it is a very slow start. And I heard the game is, you know, pretty long for what it is as well. So, but at least at this point where I'm at least, I've been really enjoying the game at the moment. So.
Yeah, you know, I'm still having fun with it, obviously, but I definitely see some points where I'm playing and I catch myself falling asleep or just like getting bored because, for one thing, the story, you know, I feel like, I guess because my first ever Mario and Luigi experience was Bowser's Inside Story, I really haven't picked up any of the other games, even the ones previously, really connected with the story in the same way. With this one, I'm kind of just like, I'll turn on a podcast, just like listen to that in the background, loosely read what's going on, but like nothing's really engaging or captivating me. So like that's like my major disappointment in the game right now is like the story being kind of bland, kind of boring, kind of whatever.
Yeah, like I think it's hard because like any Mario and Luigi game is not gonna be as good as like Bowser's Inside Story with like Fawful or whatever. Like he's just a very fun villain, and just like the whole game's like comedy and like its writing, like everything about the game was really good. This game seems to be taking itself like again a lot slower. You know, it's a bit more bland. There are, you know, some jokes here and there that are like a bit better than in the early game. But yeah, I think every game kind of lives under the shadow of like Bowser's Inside Story in terms of like story and writing, just because Bowser was written so well. And like, again, Fawful was a great villain in that series. You know, he was like the perfect mix of being like a weirdo and like threatening at the same time. It was really good. You know, this game you see like, I don't remember his name, like Master Sprocket or whatever his fucking name is. Like, you know, like he hasn't really done much yet. And I also feel like they introduce the villains like super late. Like, again, it's like after the first boss where you get really introduced to the extension core or whatever the fuck they're called. So like, I feel like, you know, if they introduced things a bit earlier and a bit sooner, it probably would have been a bit better. But as of right now, I am enjoying it. Like, you know, I think right now it's like tied with Dream Team. For me, like if I had to rank them, it would probably be about obviously Bowser's Inside Story first, Superstar Saga second, and then probably it was Dream Team third, but this is kind of like tied with Dream Team. I need to finish this before I really decided. Because again, they have like the same problems. Like it's very like, you know, it's long-winded. It doesn't really get going for a while. It just reminds me a lot of Dream Team. Which again, that game isn't bad, and this game isn't bad either. I'm having a great time with it, but yeah, I could definitely see like, why people have issues with this game and stuff. But if I could talk more positively about it, I have been enjoying like a lot of the bro moves they've been introducing, like the Yoshi one,
Yes.
and the little like zap thing is a lot of fun. I really like the battle plug mechanic. So like Bowser's Inside Story had the badge mechanic, so you could like sort of like charge up this special meter, and like once you tap it, you could do like some special effect or whatever. And Mario and Luigi could both equip different halves of the badge, and you kind of like change what the effect is. This is kind of like that on crack because you always have the effect on you. And at first in the trailers, I thought it was going to be like this consumable thing. Like you have to buy them over and over because they like run out. But no, the game actually encouraged you to keep switching out your battle plugs because one, they're only good on certain enemies. And two, if you use them too much, they have to recharge. And then you have to like play a few fights for it to recharge.
Yeah.
And I think that's really fun. I think it really keeps the battles engaging and stuff. You're not just spamming. I mean, you still are spamming bro attacks, but you can do a bit more like strategy and stuff with that. And you could like change it without wasting a turn or anything. So I've been enjoying combat like a lot in this game. And again, like you said, it's mostly just like the story that's kind of just like taking a while to get going. I heard some people say it does get pretty good later. Like a lot of people are saying that. So I'm going to trust their word on it. Like I already see what they're doing with some of the characters. I'm like, okay, this is fine. But yeah. And I guess one more like weird thing is like the sailing thing.
Yes.
So, I really do like games with like sort of like island like gameplay, I guess. Like I love Sonic Rush Adventure, even though no one else does apparently anymore. So I love Sonic Rush Adventure. I love Wind Waker, Pokemon Sun and Moon. Like I love that type of gameplay. It's kind of weird how they kind of went like half-assed with it, where it's like you just have the ocean map and that's it. And thank God you could speed up, because before the speed up thing, I was like, holy shit, this sucks. But with the speed up is fine. It's just weird. It's not like a bigger part of the gameplay, which is probably like a good thing. But it's weird to then like try to implement it more into the gameplay, because in Wind Waker you would sail around, and same thing with Sonic Rush Adventure, you would sail around to the different islands and stuff. It's weird how it's like it's a big part of the game, but also not a big part of the game, right? Because this game is like the only Mario and Luigi game that doesn't have like a big gimmick, which I guess is fine. Like I'm not really that worried about it. But like Dream Team had the babies. Bowser's Inside Story had Bowser, obviously. Dream Team had the whole Dream World thing. Paper Jam had Paper Mario. This is the only one that feels very vanilla, and maybe that was needed to maybe spice up the gameplay a little bit, because mostly it's just Mario and Luigi. You go to a new island, you do some stuff, and there you go, right? Like it's fun, but I can see how it could get repetitive, mostly when it's like such a long game already. But yeah. Anyway, I feel like my opinions will change more and more as I play it, because at first I was like, oh, I like it. Now I'm like, oh, I really like it. But I know later on it kind of like it gets a bit too long-winded and stuff. But I guess we'll see once I play more of it. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think the sailing mechanic is not that great. I definitely could see the appeal. Yeah, because you're kind of just like at the whim of it to go and get to the next island, or like get to the next part of it. Because, there's like those also like little like, I guess like statues like in the ocean that you could find or whatever,
reefs,
just for for like collectibles. And I'm like, all right, yeah, like I'll go for those. But I'm like, I have to go all the way around. And I'm like, okay, good thing there's a speed up. But still, it takes like a minute or so to get that done. But yeah, I mean, the gameplay is a lot of fun. Obviously, once you get like the bros attacks, the spark plugs, I do like how you have to constantly be swapping them around, and they all have different effects, and they all have their own different uses. And you are encouraged to now find those little like firefly guys to continuously get more spark plugs. Because at first I was like, what the hell are the point of these guys?
Yeah,
and then
me too.
and then finally it's like, oh, okay, you use them to buy these spark plugs, which enhance your battle moves. And I'm like, okay, yeah, like that makes sense. But yeah, just like the art style obviously is like such like a big thing about this game. And I think that is what really carried it once it was first revealed. Everyone was like, oh my God, like this is a brand new Mario and Luigi game, but it looks so amazing. Too bad the game doesn't necessarily run the best. I feel like for my personal experience, there was definitely a lot of times where the game would stutter. Maybe some frames would drop, but I would just notice that like the game is not running smoothly. And on top of that, the loading times are like really bad. It brought me back to when I played Sly 4 on the PS3. I was like, man, like every single little thing, you go into battle, it's a loading screen. You get out of battle, it's another loading screen. It's like there's so much that needs to load in and load out. And I'm like, all right, well, we are still on Switch hardware, but at the same time, I feel like with other first party Nintendo projects, this wasn't really that big of an issue.
Yeah, like that's how I felt about. It's mostly like the loading times for me, because a lot like I'm gonna talk about Metaphor in a second, but like in Metaphor it's very easy. You get into a fight, it does a cool battle transition, and you're in the fight like in like 2 seconds, right? In this game, it takes like 4 or 5 seconds, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're doing a lot of fights in a row, it really adds up. So that honestly, like performance in the overworld, obviously that kind of sucks, but like it's playable. And it's fine for the most part, but you do notice it. Same thing with like Echoes of Wisdom. Like you definitely notice the performance issues. It's just the load times in between every fight, which really gets to me. I'm just like, okay. And I like the fights. Like I like fighting things in this game. Like I fight any enemy I can, so I just like it. But like, like going through a loading screen every single time. And if you look at the older Mario and Luigi games, it's very quick. Like it's like battle transition and then you go, right? Like how any turn-based RPG should be. So having like such long loading times in between fights does get pretty annoying, not gonna lie. And I think that's kind of the problem with this game. It's kind of like just like a lot of little things that adds up. Like people don't like Luigi being like kind of like AI controlled. People don't really like the Luigi logic stuff. People don't really like the loading times. People don't really like how slow the game. It's like the game is good. It just has like a lot of little things that are really like leads to like
bigger problems,
disenjoyment. Bigger problems, right? I will say like those things have. I haven't been as bothered by them as the game goes on. Like I'm pretty okay with like not being able to control Luigi too much. Like it's weird, but it's fine. Like I've kind of gotten over it. Even selecting Luigi stuff with A, like I've gotten used to it, even though again it's weird.
Yes.
I actually do like Luigi logic. Like I think that's pretty fun. I love it in boss fights. So like whenever it's like a major boss fight, maybe like halfway through the fight something would happen, and Luigi could do his own like Luigi logic in the fight, and you could do some major damage. That's really cool. It kind of reminds me of like the Kingdom Hearts 2 reaction command stuff is like the same exact thing. Like something would happen in the fight and Sora could do something like within the fight itself and do something crazy. So that's really cool. I like that a lot. But I think overall the game just kind of suffers through a lot of like, I guess like new developer syndrome, like, acquires like, this is the first time making a Mario and Luigi game. So they're probably like, they're trying to do their own spin on stuff, but it wasn't really landing with a lot of people. I personally am like a bit, I guess, nicer to this game than some other people.
Yeah.
But I am enjoying myself. But yeah, you can definitely tell like if they ever do make another Mario and Luigi game, that they have a lot of feedback they could go through. So yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of stuff that they can improve on. And obviously right now, I think me and Damian are 10 to 15 hours in, which is about like the 1/3 halfway point kind of thing. So there's still a lot of the game to be played. But, as of right now, I can definitely say that I'm having a good time, but I wish that certain things were better. Obviously, by the time me and Damian finish it, maybe we'll talk about it again. Who knows? Probably sometime early next year. But yeah, is there anything else you'd like to add before we get into the general things of the show?
No, I think that's everything I have to say for the game for now. So,
all right. So I will talk about my recent activities, which is just two movies that are currently in theaters right now. First up, Anora. This is a movie that is making a lot of critical acclaim of just like how good it is from the lead star, Mikey Madison. She is fantastic, amazing in this film, to just the overall story and narrative. So pretty much it's about this dancer who falls in love with this Russian guy, and he's like super duper rich, and then some other stuff happens between the families and everything like that, and drama happens. That's pretty much when the movie picks up from like the halfway point, I would say, because the first part of it I was kind of just like, all right, like stuff's happening. I understand we're like setting up these characters, who they are, and sort of what their intentions / motives are, but it's not really going anywhere. And I was kind of just like, all right, like what the fuck's going on? But once like the family drama starts to happen, I'm like, oh shit, like this is like getting like kind of serious. And a lot of stuff comes into play. You really get to see who these people really are, really how they're feeling. And by the end of it, I'm like, okay, yeah, like this is like definitely one of the best films of this year. There's a lot of ass and titties and nudity and stuff like that, because like legit the first shot is within the strip club and all that stuff's happening. And my girlfriend's looking at me like, you didn't know? And I was like, I did not fucking know. Please do not look at me like this. Every single time there's like a movie that has like nudity and stuff, and like I don't know, all I hear is that it's a good movie. It's not a good movie because of it. It's just a good movie because it's a good movie. Like this is definitely one of those cases, along with Poor Things from last year. That was also a big thing that happened. I was like, oh shit, like this is just happening, just like on the screen. Anyways, Anora is great. Last night I saw Wicked. Not exactly the biggest Wizard of Oz or Wicked fan. I think we went on a school field trip in middle school to go see it.
Yeah.
But I don't fucking remember a goddamn thing about it.
So, I don't either.
Going into this, I've seen the trailers for it. I know Ariana Grande's in it. Jonathan Bailey, who is from Bridgerton, is also in it. So I was like, okay, there's some familiar faces here. I know what I'm getting myself into. It's going to be a musical. There's going to be a lot of musical numbers. And yeah, it's a very well-made film. Like, the budget this movie has, I think, is like absurd, but you really see it all on screen, from the camera work, the dancers, the musical numbers, literally everything. It is so freaking good. My only problem with it is that it's really long, and if you didn't like the Wizard of Oz / Wicked stuff like me, or like not super interested in it, this movie isn't going to change your mind, sadly, from my perspective. Because I was sitting there for like almost 3 hours, and I was like, yeah, like this fucking final like sequence is like amazing. Like, it was honestly like so damn good once it all like finally like comes together. But it's only part one, so then it hits you with the to be continued. And I'm like, all right, shit, gotta wait till next year. But yeah, I mean, it's just a really well-made film. If you like Wicked, and if you like the Wizard of Oz stuff, or if you know someone that does, take them out and go see it with them. But if you're someone like me who like doesn't really give two shits about it, it's not really going to change your mind.
Alrighty, so for my stuff, which is just one, it's Metaphor. So I finally finished Metaphor. It took me like 93 hours to do everything. I mean, I also did like everything. So, like everything I could, every side quest, all the super bosses I could do while doing New Game Plus, all that shit. So I actually have notes here about like things I want to talk about because, it's a big ass game. And
this guy's a game reviewer now, right? Go on.
Yeah, so just about, it's like a lot here. But first I want to start with just like the story and characters. So like overall, I thought the story was like really good. Like I thought, all the themes about the game, all those themes are very in your face. Like I talked about last time, like, things of racism and, fantasy and all that shit. Like, it's very, very in your face about it, but that's kind of what I like about it. Like, the game isn't afraid to like show its hand and show like what it wants to tell the player, which I appreciate. I always appreciate games or any type of media that kind of just like knows what it is and isn't afraid to just say it. I know there's a thing about, show don't tell or whatever, but, I think sometimes it's nice, especially for like more political messages like this game is trying to go for. I think it's bad just to like straight up tell you like all this shit right up front. So I really appreciate all its themes. I thought the ending was great. Like, and it's kind of what I'll talk about a bit later. What's kind of pushing it over the edge of Final Fantasy Rebirth for me is I think the ending was like really well done. It was very wholesome, very satisfying. Loved it a lot. It was really, really great finale. So that's not something I can say about 7 Rebirth's ending, because that was something. As for the characters, I think all the characters were written super well. There's one character in particular everyone really loves, which is he's like this little bat guy called Heisme. He's really great. That's a great character. But all the characters were really well written. They have a lot of things going on. Like I was absolutely in love with all these characters. Also great voice acting in all of them too. They all have like different accents and stuff. And that's a really easy way for people to like your English dub. Just give everyone like a British accent or something. Because if people that's good. Like a lot of games do that now. Like Final Fantasy 14 does that as well. So I thought all the voice acting and characterization was great throughout the whole game. Like I felt like every character had something to do, even though their main arc was over, which is great. Like I don't like it when characters like they introduce a character, they do the whole arc, and then that's it. They're kind of just there now. I feel like every character contributes throughout the whole game. I think Persona 5 is kind of guilty for that too. What's her name? Haru. Like you get her and then she doesn't do anything. So I love Persona 5, but there's some characters that I feel like just show up and then just don't really do much after you get them. So I'm glad this game kind of kept everyone like relevant throughout the whole game. My only like downside with the story, and it's kind of like the upside too, is like the September part of the game. That part of the game is really great. There's like reveal after reveal and like twists everywhere. It's great. But I feel like it was going too fast. Like there's one reveal towards the end of that month where it felt like it should have like breathed a little bit more. Like we already went through so many story revelations and stuff. And I feel like we just need to have a break from story. Like it was like at least like 5 hours of pure story. And I felt like we needed like at least like a dungeon or something in between that to like kind of space things out a bit. Mostly because there was a perfect opportunity to add a dungeon because it was like this location they kept talking about, and then you just don't do it. So it definitely felt like it was either cut or like just didn't have time to put it in or whatever. Because they kept talking about it and they still do it at the end of the game. I'm like, why couldn't we explore that place? So it definitely felt like something that was cut, and I don't know if they added it as DLC or they do like a enhanced re-release like Atlas likes to do, but either way, that was like my only problem with the game is like I thought that part of the game was going a little too fast. Like there was too much stuff happening, but it was still really great. Like all the story stuff they revealed there was great. I just wish it had a bit more time to breathe. Now for like the actual gameplay and like presentation of the game. Obviously, I think the game looks great. From like a technical level, yeah, it looks like a PS3 game. Like if you look at the textures, it's not gonna look as good as like some of the bigger games coming out this year. But I think Atlas really knows how to really put a lot of style into that game, and that really shows throughout everything from the UI, especially just very beautiful, all the menus, and when you're playing a JRPG, like that's where you're gonna see most of the time, anyways, menus and stuff, right? So them making it all the like even opening up a menu feels good, right? And Atlas is always very good at that, which is why a lot of people that don't even like turn-based combat love Atlas games just because it feels good to like go through their menus and stuff, right? And I think that's a very underrated thing that that a lot of JRPG developers don't really take away from this, is like make your menus feel good and people would go through it. I mean, I love menus anyway. Like I love JRPGs, but a lot of people don't. So I think that's a very good thing they nailed. Music is great as well. It's very different from the usual Atlas style. Persona, you think of like they have like that, J-pop stuff, jazzy, whatever. This game goes for a very different sense of music, but still really good. I do think by the end of the game, though, I felt like the soundtrack was a bit too short. Like they really reuse a lot of songs. I felt like some more unique boss themes would have gone a long way. But still, the music is still really good. Not my favorite Atlas stuff that they put out for music, but still pretty good. In terms of the actual combat, the press turn system from SMT is used really great here. I think even better here than SMT. So like if you don't know what press turn is basically like, you have four party members, so you have 4 turns. But if you hit an enemy weakness or you get a critical, you get an extra turn. But this also works for the enemy. So if they get a critical hit or they hit you with their weakness, they get an extra turn. And then there's a lot of different ways you can mess with their turns. Like if the enemy misses, you basically like remove some of their turns from them. So it's good to like build for agility and stuff. Or if they hit a weakness you could block, they also lose some turns. I think this is done better in this game because with the class system, which is also done really well, you can sort of like build for that stuff. So I had Heisme, who's built for like more agility and stuff. I made him so he just dodges everything. And he has an ability later that if he dodges any attack, he could take away all the enemy turns. So it makes the game fucking easy as shit. But it's like super fun that you could build around stuff like that. Because the class system is very diverse. And by the late game, you could really like make classes into your own. Like you just give them anything you want. You could stack what's good against for the class. You could cover their weaknesses. It's just really cool. There's a lot of stuff you could do with this job system. And in terms of the social systems, I think the streamlining of all the social systems, so the social links and the gaining social stats and all that shit, I think all that stuff was done really well here. With Persona 5 or any of the other Persona games, it's really hard to tell what gives you what. So like if you like hang out with like, I don't know, if you like play baseball or some shit, it's hard to tell like what social stats that gonna give you. Like, am I gonna get wisdom? Am I gonna get courage? What the fuck I'm gonna get? It doesn't tell you. This game it always tells you what you're gonna get and if it's gonna waste time. So each day takes like 2 day cycles. So you have like your afternoon period and your evening period. This game always tells you when you're gonna actually use a day or not, and I really appreciate that. Same thing with leveling up social links. Like in Persona, you would have to waste time hanging out with them so you could get up to the next level of social link. In this game, every time you hang out with them, they will always level up the social link. So it makes it very easy to level up everyone's social link so you're not missing any of that stuff because their social link levels give you like more abilities in combat. And obviously that helps a lot. So I'm really appreciated that you don't have to waste so much time doing all this busy work, and you could just like every day feels like it's meaningful, which is not something I can say with Persona because some days in Persona you just kind of do nothing. So I'm glad everyday metaphor actually feels like you're making some progress in something. I think all the social, all like the followers you get are also really good. Like in Persona, again, there's like a lot of social links that are like nothing characters. Like they're just kind of there. Especially Persona 3. Like I give them slack because that's the first time they did it. But playing Reload earlier this year, I'm like, yeah, some of these social links fucking suck. So I'm glad in this game they kind of cut back on how many social links there are. There's like obviously your 6 main party members, and then there's like 4 or 5 other followers you could like hang out with. And I think they're all written really well. So I think they did a great job sort of like cutting back on how many there are, but increasing the quality of them. And then that kind of goes into like just having really good side content. Not a lot of Atlas games, or I guess Persona games, have like a lot of side content. Like you're mostly just going through your days, doing social links or whatever. This game actually has like actual side quests and optional bosses and dungeons and shit. And I really appreciate that. It was really nice to have an Atlas game that has like a bunch of side content. Besides like SMT5, that one also does it. But I appreciate in a game like this with the day system. I think they nailed that as well. However, another con with this is like, even though there's a lot of optional dungeons and stuff, I think the main story dungeons aren't as good as Persona 5's. One Persona 5 has like way more story, like main story dungeons, and they're just longer and more creative. I feel like this game, a lot of the main story dungeons are a bit shorter and just not as creative as Persona 5's. But I think it kind of makes up with it for having just more of them like optional. So it kind of balances out, but I wish the main story dungeons were like more frequent. Like I said before, like I wish there was an extra dungeon in that September part of the game. And I also wish it was just a bit bigger and more grandiose, but it was still really good. But yeah, so overall, I thought this game was really good. And I know we're not talking about Game of the Year stuff yet, but I do think it probably is my Game of the Year. It's very close. Like right now, I could definitely say for sure, this game, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Astrobot are my top 3. And they're very close together. Specifically Metaphor and Final Fantasy. Like, they're very close. I just think Metaphor is more consistent throughout. I think 7 Rebirth has higher highs, but I think that its lows are a bit lower. Some of the mini games are annoying. I really didn't like a lot of the story choices at the end, but the game is still incredible. I think this game was just more consistent throughout and had a very strong finale, which is why I'm kind of leaning more towards this game being my Game of the Year. But yeah, overall, very solid Atlas game. Probably my favorite now, which is crazy because Persona 5 was for a long time, but I think this game really edges it out. So definitely play, if you're into JRPGs or any Atlas game, definitely give Metaphor a shot. It's extremely good. So yeah, that's my review of Metaphor.
Yeah, anytime I'm talking about like the Game Awards or something with like my coworkers and they're like, what the hell's Metaphor? I'm like, bro, you don't even need to know. It's like one of the best games released this year. Like, even though
send them a link of this and I'll explain it.
even though I don't play JRPGs, I recognize that like there's a reason why a lot of people are giving this game 10 out of 10s and really are in love with it because it has a great story, a great sort of gameplay loop and everything like that. Maybe visually, like you said, maybe not the strongest, but it is in contention for Game of the Year, which we will talk about later. But for now, let's first dig into some of the other normal news that we got going on here. So the first big one is that the FromSoftware parent company, Kadokawa, confirms that Sony's buyout intent. So Sony plans to buy them out, but insists no decision has been made as of right now. So yeah, I mean, Kadokawa is a big ass fucking company. If you guys don't know, they obviously have FromSoftware, they have Acquire, they own a bunch of different anime. So if Sony is able to pull this through, it's going to be a big game changer for Sony, but also PlayStation, obviously, because Elden Ring and sort of the Souls-like genre is dedicated or really behind their sort of games. Like a lot of the stuff that happens within that genre is because of FromSoftware. So yeah, I mean, we've talked about the many buyouts that have happened over the past few years, especially from Microsoft, and a lot of those have not panned out well. So, and we don't view Sony as that good of a light either, because obviously Sony has been very complacent with PlayStation. Sort of, they have not really pushed the needle within their games as of late. Everyone really talks about their sort of third person, over the shoulder, narrative, story driven games, and really now they're sort of losing that, and their biggest game this year is fucking Astrobot, which was like a big surprise for a lot of people, and even like Helldivers 2, where it's like that's a live service game. So if this buyout does happen, how will this affect PlayStation as a whole? Will they actually keep on their other studios, because they obviously just closed down Firewalk because of Concord, which I think that they should have been given a second chance, but with the amount of money that was thrown around with that studio and how big of a bomb it was, I can't really see how this buyout would be positive for PlayStation or even the games industry as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, even like the anime industry, because they own a lot of anime, and Sony, right, owns like Crunchyroll and Funimation and stuff. So them almost having a monopoly in anime isn't great either, especially because there's been a lot of shit talking on Crunchyroll lately, which there's been a lot of drama with them and stuff. So that would be bad as well. Apparently there's even more drama with this, because apparently this parent company was about to get hostile takeover by another company. So Sony stepped in to be like, we could buy you instead. It's some weird business thing. The fact that there could be hostile takeovers of companies like that is like insane to me to begin with. But overall, I do think it's bad. I think like FromSoftware being able to publish anywhere, any consoles they want. I think that's great for everyone. Obviously, Acquire obviously just worked on Mario and Luigi Brothership, so it sucked to have them like gone like right after they made one.
Yeah.
Spike Chunsoft also makes a lot of the mystery dungeon games for Pokemon, so that would suck. Also like Danganronpa and stuff. So having those, maybe like Sony's, we can make them all exclusive, and like you can't work on like Pokemon and Mario anymore, obviously. So that would suck, obviously, and the anime monopoly would also be bad. So all of this is kind of bad, and I'm kind of suspecting they're going to end up buying them out just from all the things I've been hearing. But I'm really hoping that they're able to stay independent and kind of just keeping them separate, because where we learn about all these these company buyouts is it basically benefits no one at all. I don't think we've seen any one of these buyouts that ended up being like beneficial, like at least for like big parent companies. Like like if they want to buy a studio here and there, sure, but like buying like this big parent company and just like owning all this stuff, I just feel like no company could like bring order to all that shit at once. It just gives them too much power, and the quality declines, everyone gets laid off. It's always like a big mess. So definitely not a fan of this. I'm hoping it doesn't go through, but I guess we probably won't know till next year probably. So I guess we'll keep an eye out. But yeah, definitely not a fan of this happening.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing every single one of these companies just try to buy out more studios and more of these big companies is like, it's very worrying for the industry, because, like when it's just FromSoftware and sort of Kadokawa just worrying about what they own, which they already have a lot of shit. And then you have PlayStation / Sony, now they're like, okay, well, now we're going to sort of handle that and maybe dictate how their games are made and yada yada yada, and then you have the exclusivity thing where it's like, okay, well, if they make another like Elden Ring game or whatever, like, is that going to be only on PlayStation, and then is it ever going to come to PC, yada yada yada. And yeah, you have all of these big sort of IPs and these big games that could potentially just be locked off, because Sony is very aggressive when it comes to sort of pushing their software and their exclusivity for their consoles. So, it's obviously very different from Microsoft, because Microsoft is, very, very much like, we'll play friendly, because what other choice do they have? No one's buying Xboxes anyways. But, when it comes to Sony, this can happen. The same thing that Microsoft has been doing, where they've closed down many studios, laid off so many people, and it's like, it really doesn't benefit anyone except for the people at the top. So we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff at stake here, so we'll see if this actually goes through. I'm in the same camp as Damian. Hopefully this doesn't happen, but these companies got all the fucking money in the world. So
yep, it always ends up the way you don't want it. So all right, so switching gears, we're gonna talk about a Minecraft movie. Apparently we didn't talk about this the first time.
Yes, we did not,
which I forgot about. So we're gonna be talking about it now. So well, what do you think about the Minecraft movie?
Look, man, as someone who got into Minecraft because it went on Xbox 360, I don't really have a huge stake within Minecraft. I play it every once in a while. Sometimes my girlfriend wants to play it, and I'm kind of just like, I don't really care about Minecraft anymore. The most fun I've had in Minecraft is just me in my own world, building my house, mining, and then when I die, I die. I don't try to respawn and like get everything back or whatever. I just start a brand new world. Like, that's what I had fun with in Minecraft. Obviously, multiplayer is always fun, just like dicking around with your friends, fucking their shit up or whatever. But, I don't really have like those core memories with Minecraft. But for this movie trailer, yeah, this shit looks kind of bad. I don't know what they're doing with the whole CGI like monster world with Minecraft. I feel like it just doesn't fit it. It just looks like a lot of stuff is super creepy and just off-putting. But I know when I go and watch this movie in theaters, because I will, it's going to be a fucking good time. Front to back, it's going to be hilarious just because it just looks so stupid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I basically agree 100%. Like, I guess I have more core memories from Minecraft. It was like kind of one of the first PC games I wanted to play. I played it during alpha. Like, I was there like really from the start with Minecraft. I played a shit ton of multiplayer. I played a lot of this game from like 2010 to like 2012 is kind of when I stopped playing. But those were like very core memories for me. But even then, this movie doesn't really do it for me. I feel like if you're gonna do a Minecraft movie, you kind of have to have like good writing and stuff. Like, I feel like the Lego movie was good not just because it was Legos, but because it was like really smartly written, it had a lot of good jokes, a lot like a good meta narrative that didn't feel like very forced or whatever. And that's why I think that movie worked. So if you try to do something also like, like, oh, like it's a Minecraft movie and like, it's kind of doing stuff like that. This just kind of feels like fucking Jumanji or whatever. Where
Yes.
It's just like, oh, we're going in the game world and stuff. And it just seems very bad. Like, I really don't like any of the designs. Jack Black is Jack Black, so I guess you're gonna have some enjoyment from him. But like, I don't know, like nothing about this movie is doing it for me. It just feels bad. Like a lot of the shots look really bad. Like some of them look like they're very obviously fucking green screen, like them running around and stuff. Like some of the shots just look AI generated. Like it just looks bad, man. Like I just like, it's not like I'm heartbroken about it or anything. Like I don't really care. Even though I do love Minecraft, like, or I used to love Minecraft, it's not like I'm like oh, how dare they like defoul like Minecraft or whatever. I do give them credit for doing like putting like Minecraft music in the trailer. I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah.
But besides that, like the whole thing just looks whatever. Like I'm sure it's gonna be a fun time regardless. Either be good or bad. You could like riff on it, and it's not the first time we've seen movies with awful trailers that end up being good. Transformers 1, Dungeons and Dragons, right? Like I thought those movies were gonna be ass, but like they were really good. So who knows? Maybe the Minecraft movie could be good, but I don't think it is, because just from this trailer, it doesn't look good. So
yeah, it's definitely one that you're gonna have to wait for reviews and then go and see it for yourself. Because obviously, I feel like with every form of media, really, you just have to sit down and consume it for yourself and actually form your own opinion to really get an idea if it's actually meant for you. Obviously, there's certain things out there that are just straight up terrible, straight up bad. But I feel like for this one, it's definitely leaning more towards the bad, but we'll just have to wait and see.
We just gotta wait and see, man. Like again, video game adaptations have really took a step up, the last few years. So we can't be running with this movie anymore. Okay.
All right, so next we got the Thunderbolts. They got a special D23 special look. And they released it online. So pretty much like a extended trailer with a couple of scenes from the film and a better idea of what's going on. So yeah, I mean, it looks like they're just getting this group of bad guys, anti-heroes together and just making a team. And yeah, I mean, the vibes are very good. Like, I feel like this special look really gave, along with the first trailer, really gave people like a good idea of like what this movie is going to be. And the writing seems great. The jokes are actually kind of funny, kind of clever. So yeah, I mean, it definitely brought back vibes of like, I guess like the first Avengers movie, where it's like, yeah, like you got these people who are like obviously not meant to like work together, but they're gonna somehow make it work. And yeah, I'm excited to see this. It comes out next year on May 2nd. But yeah, I know everyone leading up to this film was very skeptical, but just like judging by the cast and sort of these first couple of looks we gotten at it, I'm actually kind of excited for it.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a lot of fun. It looks like it's going more for that, unlikely team up type stuff, like Avengers 1 or maybe like Guardians 1 or whatever. Like, it's kind of going for that angle a little more, which is good because, I think it kind of is a nice contrast between this and like Captain America, where it looks like that movie is going to be a lot more serious and this is more like the funnier movie, I guess. And I think a lot of the actors in here are fun. I enjoyed them all in the like Disney Plus, adventures or whatever. So I think it could be a good time. It wouldn't surprise me if the movie isn't great, but I'm hoping that it's good. I think Marvel has been, we talked about multiple times that Marvel's been going through a lot of shit lately. So it'd be nice for them to get some W's here. And, I think this movie looks like it could be some fun, I know some people might scoff at it because it's all just Marvel humor or whatever, but I don't know. It could be like, I like the trailer, like you said. I thought it was kind of funny. So I guess we'll see when the actual movie comes out. But right now, I'm feeling it. I think it looks pretty good. Alrighty, so I guess we'll also move on to the Captain America: Brave New World. So like I was saying, new trailer for this, and this is a lot more serious than Thunderbolts. So that's why I was saying, like, I think this movie comes out first, then this Thunderbolts. So I think, again, like I said, it's a good contrast between having a more serious movie and this one, because this movie looks like it's taking itself very seriously. With like, oh, like we're going to war, then like the president's getting assassinated and shit. So and it's cool to see Anthony Mackie, the Falcon, get like a huge role in this. He is Captain America, and I still love that line. It's like, yeah, I'm not Captain America, or like, you're not what he said,
Steve Rogers.
You're not Steve Rogers. Like, yeah, I'm not. I'm like, yeah, bro, pretty sick. So I know some people are kind of dogging on the CGI a little bit, and yeah, some scenes don't look super great, but I think it's all like alleviated when he does the cool, like he cuts a car with his wings. That shit looks cool. So whatever. So yeah, I'm just hoping this has the vibe of Winter Soldier, you know, like it has that espionage, like serious spy thriller type thing going on, because that's really what I like that movie for. And again, the Captain America movies have always been pretty damn good. So I'm hoping this kind of continues the trend, and you know, having a new Captain America could really spice things up. And this one I am looking forward to, but I guess we'll see when it comes out, because you know, I'm like, you know, I don't want to be too excited for it just in case it sucks, right? So.
Yeah, because apparently there are reshoots happening. So, you know,
there's
that's
reshoots. Yeah, that was the thing I wanted to bring up. Yeah, there's reshoots that were like, it's like, you know, the movie's about to fucking come out and they're doing reshoots. I'm like, I really hope that doesn't mean this movie's in trouble, but I guess we'll see when it comes out.
Yeah, you know, it is very concerning that, you know, for this movie to be the next big Marvel film and they're still doing reshoots on it. It's like, okay, yeah, like that's a little sussy, a little worrying, but I will give them credit. Every single trailer for this film in particular, Captain America Brave New World, has been amazing. Whoever's cutting these fucking trailers up is like straight peak. But that also has people like me concerned about like how bad is like the movie actually, like how good or how bad is it actually going to be when we sit down in theaters and watch it? Because you know, I love Anthony Mackie as Captain America. I think that he did a great job within his own show, and now that he gets his own feature film to play this role, I think it is going to be amazing. But you know, from everything that we've seen so far, it's a little bit of hit or miss. You know, sort of the controversies happening behind these scenes, and sort of like what is this story actually going to tell. But yeah, I mean, I'm still excited nevertheless, like I said, because I just love this version of Captain America and this and Anthony Mackie. So you know, I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed and hope that it's good once we finally get to that release day, and you know, hopefully critics come out and actually say that the movie isn't half bad. But we'll just have to wait and see. All right, so last thing on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we got Kevin Feige came out and pretty much gave us a few updates at D23 Brazil about the future of the MCU. So he finally talked about Blade. He's like, guys, it's coming. It's not canceled. I'm sure he was very worried just seeing all of the numerous headlines over the past year of like the sort of things happening behind scenes come to light, and he's like, oh shit. So, you know, it is still coming. Scarlet Witch could potentially return. It was confirmed within Agatha. That's a spoiler, I guess. But
yeah, spoiler.
It is confirmed that Scarlet Witch is dead or gone or whatever the hell is happening there. And then Miles Morales will be in the MCU post Spider-Verse 3. I guess it's because they don't want to have that going on along with, you know, them introducing him within the MCU and everything like that. So, and then the X-Men will also be a important aspect after Secret Wars. So, yeah, I mean, I think that that's a good plan to keep the X-Men after Secret Wars, because you already have all of this other shit going on with those Avengers films, with the Spider-Man movie. I think you also have Robert Downey Jr. coming back, and it's like, okay, yeah, like, how are we going to fit the X-Men in here? They can't. So they're just going to wait until they do it after Secret Wars. And then the whole Miles Morales thing, getting a live action adaptation into the MCU, is obviously going to be very exciting. But once again, that is still a Spider-Man property tied in with Sony. So there's obviously going to be stuff going on with that. There's always going to be complications with that deal in and of itself. So, you know, I'm excited for the future of the MCU. Obviously, Daredevil is the next project, so how can I not be? But, you know, all of these other projects from films, TV shows, you know, it seems promising, but, you know, just like with everything else within the MCU, we're just going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, I am interested to see what they do with Miles. You know, that'd be really interesting to see, like, maybe they try to connect it to Spider-Verse or something. I don't know. Like, he's like, oh, he came from a portal or something. I don't know. I doesn't have the own Miles. Again, the problem with Miles in the MCU is he's very similar to, like, Tom Holland Spider-Man. But I guess they're, like, evolving his character past that now. But, you know, Tom Holland was very similar to Miles. So I don't know if they want to do, like, a repeat of that. In the MCU, because they kind of made him like a weird mix of all the Spider-Men. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see if Miles is in here or not, or when he gets in here. Obviously, Blade is the whole huge thing. Like, I don't fucking know when that movie's coming out. So, and then I feel like they tease X-Men like way too early. You know, like they keep teasing them, and now it's just like, oh, they won't be until like late. It makes sense and stuff, but like I feel like they just should have like held it off. I know it's probably because the MCU did not know where they were going for the longest time. Yeah. So I'm happy they have like a solid plan, but it does suck for people that are looking forward to seeing like a lot of X-Men action. Like, you know, I think it's going to have to wait a bit more, but you know, that's just how it is. You know, at least we got Deadpool and Wolverine to hold us off.
Yeah, that's probably going to fund Robert Downey Jr.'s paycheck. But anyways,
Yeah.
moving on from there, let's talk about the Game Awards 2024, because this is obviously a big thing within the gaming community in terms of the discussion. So before the nominations were announced, it was a thing on their website that was like, hey, so now DLCs, expansions, and sort of anything within that realm can now be nominated for Game of the Year. And everyone obviously fucking knew, where it was like, okay, Elden Ring DLC, it's going to be in the Game of the Year nominations. We don't want it to be in there, but it's going to be fucking in there. And I guess what? The nominations came out and it was right. So I guess this is the big thing that we'll talk about. So we'll just get right into it. So the Game of the Year nominations are Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. Hopefully I said that right.
Yeah,
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Metaphor ReFantazio. So obviously 2024 was a big ass fucking year for gaming. Like there's a lot of games in here that were not nominated for Game of the Year. Maybe some people would want to Helldivers, maybe Stellar Blade, or some other games that came out this year. You know, Sonic X Shadow Generations. I don't think that should be on there, but you know, Silent Hill 2. You know, I think that game got snubbed the most in terms of nominations. Snubbed, and I think it's because Jeff Keighley really loves Hideo Kojima, and he's like, fuck Konami, so fuck Silent Hill. I'm pretty sure it's literally that simple. And, you know, obviously, Jeff Keighley, once again, he loves FromSoftware. He's like, you know what? Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, you know what? This shit was good enough to be nominated Game of the Year. So, yeah, I mean, I'll let Damian go first because, you know, he shares a very similar opinion to me, and I'll let him talk about it.
Yeah. So when it comes to like DLCs and remakes being added to the Game of the Year, like if it's your own personal Game of the Year list, I don't really care. Yeah. Like, you know, I do it. You know, I put like, you know, I put Endwalker in my Game of the Year list. I put Xenoblade expansions in my Game of the Year list. So I think it's fine if it's your own personal list because, you know, it's just what you played this year. Like really, my only limit on what I put in my Game of the Year list is if it's like a 1-to-1 remake. So that's why I'm kind of hesitant if we're going to put Paper Mario Thousand Year Door on there because it's basically the same game, just like, you know, it looks a bit better. That's why I didn't put like the Mass Effect Legendary Edition when I played that, even though I loved it. It was basically just a remaster, basically, right? So that's kind of my only limit. Also, like the game has to come out this year. Yes. I don't like giving it a year list when it's like, oh, I played it this year. So like that doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, in terms of like the actual Game of the Years, and you know, I know like all said and done, this doesn't really matter technically, but I viewed this Game Awards as the Game Awards. Like this is the one that, you know, is that legitimate Game of the Year winner, right? So that's why I'm a bit more bothered when they allow something like a DLC to be added, because to me it does feel like you're kind of just voting for like Elden Ring. And also I just don't like how they bended the rules just for Elden Ring. Again, this wasn't a rule set place any other time. It was placed right now, so Elden Ring could win, right? You know, because there was a lot of great, you know, like people really like Phantom Liberty from last year, the Cyberpunk expansion. People really like a lot of Final Fantasy 14 expansions. People really liked the Xenoblade expansions as well. That's not just me saying that, you know, a lot of other people were saying that too. And you know, I think the Xenoblade expansions have more of a like say in this conversation because those DLCs are standalone. Like, yeah, you need the base game to play them, but that's it. Like, you don't need to play through the original game to get to that DLC content. It's basically a whole new game. Like, you press a new game and you're like level 1 and stuff again with new battle systems and everything. Elden Ring doesn't work like that. Shadow of the Erdtree, like, you actually have to like play through the game and you have to beat 2 major bosses before you could get into that new area. So you have to be pretty far into Elden Ring itself to be able to access that new DLC expansion. And that's kind of where I draw the line with the DLCs. I think it should be either way. It shouldn't be in there like at all, like DLC stuff. Like not even Xenoblade. And I love Xenoblade. Like I'll put on my stuff, but not on actual Game of the Year stuff. But I feel like for expansions like that, even like the Cyberpunk one where you have to actually play through the game to get to the DLC, I feel like that shouldn't count because it's not really its own game. It's an expansion of that game. You know what I'm saying? That's why it's called an expansion. Like it's expanding that game. So it just feels like you're voting for Elden Ring again. And I really don't like the special treatment it's getting just because it's Elden Ring. Like, yes, the game is good. We all know that. It won 2 years ago. We don't need to be reminded again that it won Game of the Year, you know? And most of it, I feel like other games deserve that slot. You know, people are really mad Silent Hill 2 is in there. I thought for sure Silent Hill 2 was going to be there. You know, Stellar Blade, people really wanted. A bunch of other games, Warhammer, Helldivers. A lot of different games could have been in that slot. You know, when it comes to remakes, like I said, if it's not a 1-to-1 remake, and most of these high budget remakes aren't 1-to-1 remakes, I feel like it's fine because like they're changing a lot of that game. Like people saying that argument with 7 Rebirth are dumb. 7 Rebirth is not because they don't understand. Like the original.
They just don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, Rebirth is not a remake. Like it is, but also like definitely not a remake, like, at all. Same thing with Silent Hill 2. Like, it does a lot of things to change the original game. It adds more stuff. You know, it feels like its own game, right? You know, if it was something like the Dead Rising remaster, you know, that, yeah, I would argue against that because it's basically just a remaster. It just looks pretty with quality of life adjustments, right? That I wouldn't count. But any big budget AAA remake usually isn't like that to begin with anyway. So yeah, I draw the line on that, and I think it's a pretty awful decision, mostly because I swear to God, no other DLC is ever going to be nominated again after this year. I could almost guarantee it. If it's not FromSoft, I could guarantee you no other expansion will ever be like nominated again. He literally just did this because of the favoritism from FromSoft, and a lot of critics feel that way. Like if you go to a lot of like their discussion pieces on Twitter or just on podcasts, you know, a lot of them, oh yeah, that's okay because it's FromSoft. I'm just like, I don't know, that feels very unfair to me. And I think other games deserve that slot more. Mostly because it's not like this year was bad, right? Like this year was great. There was a ton of great games. And I feel like those games deserve the recognition more than a game we already know was a game of the year contender, right? But yeah, that's my little rant on that.
Yeah, I mean, first piece is about Elden Ring DLC nominated, and should DLCs, remakes, remasters be in here? So, you know, when it comes to the discussion of DLCs, everyone's simple answer, no, it should not. We should just have a separate category for that, because then you could have things like Phantom Liberty and those Xenoblade expansions in there, yada, yada, yada.
Yep.
You know, because obviously DLC and expansions in and of themselves come out every single year for multiple games to keep those games alive and to keep those players happy. So you know what? Have a separate category where it's like best DLC or best expansion pass or whatever the hell it's called. To have it in contention for Game of the Year alongside things like Astrobot, Black Myth Wukong, Metaphor ReFantazio, where it's like these are games that developers spent years on. They spent years working on these games, and for it to get undercut by a goddamn piece of DLC is a little slimy. I think that, you know, when it comes to game awards in and of themselves, like Jeff Keighley's show is the biggest. Whether we want to say it or not, it's the biggest, because the Golden Joystick Awards happened, I think, last night or whatever. And, you know, it's not going to be as big of a splash as this award show is, just because Jeff Keighley's running it, and Jeff Keighley has a lot of pull within the industry. So, you know, I don't think that it should be on here. And I think him bending the rules just for this game also changes the way that people are going to think about this award show in terms of Game of the Year for years on. Like, let's say like a new expansion comes out in it and it's like the best thing ever that people really, really enjoy, and then it's not nominated for Game of the Year. Well then, you know, and then how are game developers going to think about developing their games now, where it's like, oh, okay, like if I make a big enough of an expansion, we could get a second chance at getting nominated for Game of the Year. Like it just fucks everything up, right? Like it just makes zero sense to change this rule just for this game, especially when the collateral effects, if that's even like a word or a phrase, like I could use. Effects, what can happen in the future is bad, right? Because it just does not make sense to have Elden Ring on here. And like, if you enjoyed it, cool. If you want to vote for it, cool. I think that all of these other games on here deserve a shot, especially when it comes to Astrobot, Metaphor, and Balatro. You know, and you know, that's like another topic with that game, because people are like, what the fuck is this goddamn card game being on here? And then people find out that, like, yeah, it is like a really good card game, which I guess I'll just quickly talk about. You know, like, I was going to play it. You know, I saw the buzz going around for this game when it came to it being released on mobile. And I was like, okay, yeah, like people are saying that like my fucking production is going to go way down now. And I'm like, what does that exactly mean? Is this game really goddamn good? And I'm like, oh, it's like a roguelike card game with like poker or solitaire kind of thing. I was like, oh, okay, like that sounds cool. Then I see this game get nominated for like, you know, best indie game, best debut indie game, best game of the year, like everything. I'm like, okay, yeah, like I should probably play it. I played it literally today. I was like addicted for like 2 hours. I didn't even know that like what was going on. I would literally just hit next run because it was just that much fun. Like it just has such a addicting game loop. And even though I had no idea what was happening or like how the game worked, the game really does give you a good idea of what's happening with the basic tutorials.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Like, and, you know, I think that really says a lot for like how valuable like a Game of the Year slot could be. You know, a lot of people are looking like, what the fuck is a Metaphor, or what the fuck is a Balatro? Like, oh, it must be good if it's Game of the Year. And then people are going to play it and be like, yeah, that game was really cool. You know, with Elden Ring, you're not really going to get that. People already know Elden Ring is good, right?
Yeah.
So like, you're just going to be like, okay, I'll just buy the DLC for that. And yeah, Balatro, again, I've been meaning to play this since it came out. I just, you know, there's so many other games coming out. And I think it came out at the same time Final Fantasy VII Rebirth came out. So it was like kind of hard for me to like balance both of those. So I finally played it this week, and I'm like, yeah, this game is fucking awesome. I put like 7 hours into it. I got very addicted to it, and I'm definitely gonna put more hours into it throughout the year. But yeah, like Balatro is fantastic, and I like I said, that's why that slot is so valuable. And I'm not saying expansions aren't good. Like, I love expansions. Like, I love playing through, games I like. I like playing new content and all that stuff. But it really just comes to show that, him bending the rules is what's really bothering me. Because, he just did it for Elden Ring. That's what really gets to me. And, just having a DLC category could fix everything. And it's not like we didn't have any good DLCs this year. Like, we had, obviously, Elden Ring. We had Dawn Trail for Final Fantasy 14. We had War Within for... Alan Wake 2 expansions. We got the Diablo expansion. Fucking Splatoon 3 expansion. Side Order came out. So, like, there's a ton of expansions that came out this year. An easy category right there. And you could, I heard some people saying, oh, what's the difference between that and ongoing game if it's an MMO one? And for me, it's very easy to decide that. For best expansion, you just judge it based on the expansion content. And for ongoing game, you judge it throughout the whole year. So, like, maybe like for Destiny 2, Final Shape, people love the initial expansion, but people hated the whole year of Destiny right now. So that's a very easy way to say, like, oh, you could vote for Final Shape for best expansion, but maybe vote like, I don't know, Fortnite for ongoing, right? Like, that seems very easy to like get around. So very easy solution, but Jeff really is against that for some reason. So whatever. Either way, I think we're both on agreement that yes, I don't think DLC should be on Game of the Year. Again, if you want to put in your own personal Game of the Year list, that's fine. I just think that slot is more valuable for like some other game that kind of deserves it more than a game that already won Game of the Year. Yeah. Right? Like, honestly, if Death Stranding 2 is coming out next year, and if that doesn't win Game of the Year, which probably won't, and Kojima makes a DLC for it, you bet your ass that Jeff is gonna put that shit on another Game of the Year list. So see, that's why I keep thinking about stuff like that. Like, it's just like, it just feels weird, and I don't like it. So,
it's just like, it's so obvious that like he's just like bending the rules to like how he wants it and how he wants to run his show, which like it's his show, like he could do whatever the fuck he wants. But when the show becomes bigger than you as yourself, you have to recognize that like doing certain things like that just isn't cool. And obviously it has caused a big controversy and a big discussion around this sort of Game of the Year nominations as a whole, right? Because obviously I don't think Elden Ring should be there, but I think all of these other games deserve a spot in here, even things like Black Myth Wukong, which, is like the lowest rated Game of the Year nomination in like a while or whatever, in terms of like Metacritic and all of that other stuff, which, is fine. I think there's a lot of people out there, including like my coworker, he really loves that game. There's a lot of people out there that really love Wukong and are glad to see it on this list, because that's another game that has been in development for like years and years and years, and it's like one of the first like Chinese AAA developed games that like really made a big splash within gaming. And also it was a big pull for PlayStation because it was a console exclusive for them. But yeah, I think that this Game of the Year nomination list is fine. I think that the nominations as a whole throughout every single category, I feel like every single year there's always stuff that's like kind of weird or kind of not exactly right or whatever. So I guess, is there something you want to add, Damian, before I talk about best family game? Because that's like another thing that people are talking about.
Yeah, I kind of want to talk about like best indie game, like I guess best independent game. I don't know, that best indie game and best independent game. But that's debut indie game, never mind. But yeah, for best independent game, there was a ton of good indie games this year. We had Animal Well, Balatro, UFO 50, which is a big one I'm championing. That game is very fucking good. But then you have things like Pennies, Big Breakaway, and then Plucky Squire as well. There was a lot of good indie games this year. And I'm happy to see that we got some representation here. And we don't have things that I didn't even play, like Lorelei and the Laser Eyes and stuff like that. So it's cool to see like a lot of good indie representation here. Obviously Balatro making huge splashes like throughout the whole like year for every website's Game of the Year list. And then, all the other stuff is things you expect, like best ongoing and best RPGs and stuff. Also, it kind of does irk me that I feel like a lot of rewards are going to be snubbed from Seven Rebirth and Metaphor because Elden Ring is in a lot of those same categories, which makes me annoyed. Yes. So, like, if Final Fantasy or Metaphor don't win best RPG, I'm going to be very not happy. So, because you always have like a Dragon Infinite Wealth and Dragon's Dogma 2, and then you have Elden Ring. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
And this year has been like just the biggest year for JRPGs. There's been so many fucking good JRPGs. Not even I could get through all of them. There's so many of them. And so many of them were very good. So again, makes me mad that Elden Ring is just taking a slot from that when it could have been used for like anything else. But again, that's just Yeah, that's just how it is. So,
Yeah. You know, Elden Ring, you can't even play it by itself, but I'll stop myself there. But, you know, I guess best family game, people are sort of pointing at this and being like, this is just the Nintendo category. And it's like, yeah, it's been like that for fucking years because it's very obvious that it is just the Nintendo category when fucking Princess Peach Showtime's in there. Because, you know, even though me and Damian both played it when it came out earlier this year, I think now that we think back to it, it's just like, oh, yeah, it's just like an inoffensive 3D platformer mainly for Princess Peach fans. And you know what? That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But to have it be nominated for best family game when things like Sonic X Shadow Generations came out, which, you know, maybe the material might not be the most family friendly, but, you know, like kids play Sonic, kids have played Sonic X Shadow Generations and they're fine, you know, like they'll understand the story more once they get older. But, you know, I feel like that there were a lot of other family games that they could have put on here.
Yeah, it's always been like that because I guess it's like, where do you put a lot of these? I mean, obviously Zelda could be an action adventure, which it is. You know, Astrobot, Plucky Squire, but yeah, usually it does end up just being the Nintendo category or any game with a cutesy art style, which does feel a little weird, but you know, whatever. Again, Princess Peach Showtime, I guess it's fine being here because it's more family centric, I guess. But you know, it does suck that Sonic X Shadow Generations didn't get anything. And again, that's another game that's like, yeah, technically it's a remaster, but the Shadow stuff is basically almost the same length as Sonic Generations. So like, I think it's fine, like rating that game by itself. If you just want to rank Shadow Generations, then there you go, right? So, in terms of the other categories, is there anything else that I really want to touch on? Besides like, I mean, not really. Like, you know, most of the stuff is like things you would expect, like best narrative. I'm probably going to say Metaphor, you know.
Yeah.
Like, all these ones have a lot of the same games in it. So it's kind of hard to like differentiate like what is going to happen. And honestly, doesn't even matter to Jeff because he's going to blaze through them anyway. So
yeah, he's going to be like, best ongoing, it's this, best indie game, whatever, you know. But
yeah, so. I'm being a hater, sorry.
My top three picks that are probably going to sweep the whole event is probably going to be Balatro, Astrobot, and Metaphor. Even though, you know, like I talked about earlier, even though I haven't played Metaphor, I recognize that like that's just a good fucking game. Like it just has everything that you would want from a JRPG fan. And Astrobot, I feel like that game was very surprising for a lot of people where it was just like, yeah, like this is just like fucking peak 3D platforming, you know, even though that like it might just be like a basic 3D platformer where it has like the cute, you know, like PlayStation gimmicks or whatever. It's a really well made 3D platformer. As someone who plays that genre a ton, that one is just a cut above the rest, even though it's not my personal game of the year. You know, it's Sonic X Shadow Generations, obviously, but you know, Astrobot is definitely within my top 3 for this year just because you cannot deny that game's greatness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like basically I'd be okay with like almost any game on that game of the year list and the other categories winning, like, you know, just not Elden Ring. That's really it. Like I'm okay with like even if like all the like fucking Metaphor, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Astrobot, Balatro, if any of those 4 win game of the year, I'll be happy. I'm like that deserves it, you know. Wukong I didn't play, so I don't really have much to say about it. Just not fucking Elden Ring. And for the other categories, I think all of them are like really close together. Like, you know, best RPG, like I said, like is really neck and neck with Final Fantasy Rebirth and Metaphor. Again, that's how I'd be mad if fucking Elden Ring wins. But all the other ones, like, you know, I hope Silent Hill 2 wins some stuff. I hope Prince of Persia wins some stuff because I heard that game was good. You know, Stellar Blade, you know, I liked Stellar Blade. Obviously not the best game ever, but like, you know, I hope it wins something as well. Cause you know, it's the first like big AAA game from like, you know, South Korea and stuff too. So it'd be cool to see a lot of these games get recognition. And I feel like that's like a good, you know, like a good thing about the Game Awards. You know, these games gain this recognition, and a lot of these developers that have never really won any Game Awards, you know, to get something, you know, and it's not because it's like a participation reward. It's like, you know, they did really fucking good, and it would be cool for them to get rewarded for that effort. That's why, you know, FromSoftware, I got their stuff. It'd be nice to see other developers get something, you know, especially like, you know, I do hope Square wins something because I feel like they're always like, oh, our games don't sell enough and we're dying. So it'd be cool if Rebirth got like like some cool trophies. And obviously, I think Atlas, you know, deserves stuff. You know, Team Asobi deserves stuff from Astrobot. So again, a lot of great games. You know, it was a great year for games. I think that's why having a DLC on the Game of the Year slot just, you know, hurts a bit more. So.
Yeah, especially one that isn't standalone. Like, I think if it was standalone, I think you can make the argument there. But because it's not standalone, and on top of that, you got to play like a few hours in or whatever. You got to get to a certain point in the game to even access it. It's not even, you know, eligible for Game of the Year at that point, in my opinion. So
yeah, I mean that's how I feel too. Like again, I think the Xenoblade expansions are even fucking Splatoon. The Splatoon expansions have more of a argument because like Octo expansion, you can just play it. Like you don't have to do anything else. I don't think so.
Yeah,
and it's like a whole new game. So I feel like those expansions have more of a say in this conversation, like for legitimacy. But like either way, I still wouldn't really want it to begin with. So. But that's just me.
Before we quickly talk about most anticipated game, I got a champion best content creator, Queso, or else my girlfriend's going to kill me. She watches him all the fucking time. But he is a great content creator. Like, he is very funny. He pretty much just does variety streaming. And he just has a great time doing literally anything. And his chat is very interactive. His community is great. But... yeah, I mean, most anticipated game, when you have GTA 6 in here, it's kind of hard to make an argument for the other ones. But the other games are Death Stranding 2, Ghost of Yode, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and Monster Hunter Wilds. I voted for Ghost of Yode because obviously I'm a fucking Sucker Punch fanboy. But, when GTA 6 is in there, when people have been waiting over a decade for that game, it's like, okay, yeah, like... that's obviously going to win most anticipated game, as long as the game doesn't get delayed, and then it'll be at the Game Awards next year again. But
that's literally the GTA reward. Like it's going to be GTA 6. Actually, I've been they fixed up the definitive edition like last week for GTA, so I actually just bought it on PlayStation because it was on sale. And yeah, it runs a lot better. I definitely want to see if I could like play through, because I personally have never played through a GTA all the way through, like ever in my life. Yeah, because I played a bit of 5 and that's it. Because as a kid, my parents like that's literally the only thing you can't play. Don't fucking play GTA. I'm like, okay. So I played like a lot of Jack 2, Destroy Humans, Simpsons Hit and Run. So I played a lot of like GTA like games as a kid. I just never played GTA before. So it'd be cool to at least get through like those 3 PS2 games now that they're actually playable now, and then maybe play through GTA 5 before GTA 6 comes out. I mean, those games are pretty long, so we'll see. But that's kind of something I want to start doing before GTA 6 comes out, just so I have like a like a gauge of where the series was and where it's going to be at, right? So, I mean, I voted for GTA 6 because it's fucking GTA 6, but I am really excited for Ghost of Yode. I'm excited for Metroid Prime 4. I really do hope they port Metroid Prime 2 and 3 so I could play them. But, Monster Hunter Wilds comes out so early in the year that I'm not really, like, anticipating it. Like, it's going to be here anyway. And then Death Stranding 2, I should play Death Stranding 1 before that, but there's so many fucking games that it's hard to get through everything. So, all right, I'm at my limit.
So many goddamn games, but... yeah, that's pretty much our discussion on the Game Awards. Now let's talk about The Penguin. The Penguin, episodes 6 through 8, along with just like the series as a whole. So this is going to be all spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled on this great piece of television, stop listening to us now. But yeah, I mean, just overall, I've heard a lot of people, as a person that is a big fan of Daredevil, I've heard a lot of people compare this show to the Daredevil series, which I could see why, because there's a lot of great episodes that really dig into the characters within flashbacks and also just like see where they are currently. And episode 7 does that phenomenally with Oz, just seeing him and sort of what happened with his brothers and how he actually had a hand within that. So yeah, I mean, The Penguin is just a fantastic show, obviously, and I am excited to see what happens within this Batman Matt Reeves universe. I forget exactly what the actual name of it was. I think it was like True Crime, whatever the fuck, something corny and cheesy. But yeah, Matt Reeves' version of Gotham is very, very scary.
Yeah, I agree. After watching like a bunch of Daredevil earlier in the year, and then watching this, I'm like, yeah, this is great. It's kind of just more of like what that was, except like kind of like in the perspective of like the villain, basically. Yeah. Let's be real. I think that's kind of why I want to play more GTA 2. I feel like playing more crime stuff like that right now. But yeah, I thought the show was really good. Obviously, the tone was. I don't think it was like, it gets dark, but I feel like Daredevil still felt a bit darker in terms of tone. Like, I still think this show got some good funny moments, even though it's not like in your face about it. Like Penguin is still like Oz is a fun character. Like he's awful, but he's still like a great character to follow. And I kind of like this show didn't redeem him like at all. If anything, he got worse as the series went on. So he becomes like a proper Batman villain, and I love that. Everything he does throughout the show, throughout these last 3 episodes, just shows how irredeemable of a monster he has become to reach the top. And now he feels like a worthy villain for Batman to take down and stuff. So I thought the show did a great job being like an origin story for the Penguin to become Gotham's like biggest like crime boss or whatever, right?
Yeah, and just seeing everything that happened to him, because I think last time I talked about it, I was like, where is the Oz flashback gonna happen? And then we finally get it, and then it plays into the last two episodes, episode 7 and 8, where we obviously see him with his brothers and sort of how he was jealous of how his mom also cared for his other brothers, even though it's like that's like a normal thing to do, family, sort of, just like have a family. But obviously he wanted all of his mom's love for himself. So the moment that his brother screwed him, he was like, "Fuck you guys," and then he just locked them in there, didn't care, lied to his mom, and then was like, just sitting at home watching movies, just like not caring. And up until episode 8, we didn't know if like Francis knew. And then, it opens up with Francis being like, "Look, I found this in his fucking jacket. He was with them. He fucking did it." I was like, "Oh shit, she fucking knew." So, and like the whole interrogation scene with, Oz, Francis and Sophia was just like peak, because it's like Oz was still trying to not tell the truth. Like she was like, what is so hard about you fucking telling the truth? And she's like, I fucking knew. And it's like, man, like these are just such great character moments and such great scenes that I just really love what they did with the show and sort of developing the Penguin.
Yeah, and I do love that he still like never admitted that he did it either.
Yes.
Like he's so like in denial or like just doesn't want to say it. I guess that leads to like this such a like it almost feels like he did it, obviously. But like he feels in his mind like he's like, "Oh, what's wrong? I didn't do that." He's like living in such a delusion that's like really cool to see. Even Sophia's like, "Yo, just fucking admit it. What's your problem?" I was gonna cut her finger off, bro. Like, what's your like? Just say it. Yeah. So and it was really cool to see that realization. The whole flashback sequences with when with Oz, locking his brothers in there like Heavy Rain style, and then the things with his mom and like how she was basically gonna like put a hit on her son, basically. So like
he was about to take a ride and not see the next day, but yeah.
But I think it does show like the consequences of like this sort of like crime and stuff that some people are psychopaths, and unfortunately Oz is like the perfect psychopath to be able to do this job really well. So I forgot what his name was, like Rick or whatever his name was, like the other mobster guy with his mom. He was just like like, "Oh, you could like you get rid of him now, or you could like make him into the perfect little weapon or whatever, right?" And it should just that, right? So
yeah,
it was cool to see that kind of like come and bite them all in the butt later, even though he's still like Oz is a terrible person. But it's kind of like what you have to be to get through in Gotham and stuff, and kind of like parallels to like Vic's situation, where like he was always going to be dead. Like the moment he showed up, I was like, he's going to die, right? And it sucked. He's a great character, but I think it really showed that he was too good-hearted for this line of work, right? Like he had too much empathy. He was too much of a good person for any of this to happen. When he killed Squid, he was just like he was horrified because you fucking killed someone, right?
Yeah.
So it's obviously gonna like get to someone, and Oz just killing him in cold blood, just being like family was his only weakness, and like I can't have that. So sorry, Vic, you're gone. It shows how heartless the Penguin was, and it shows how kind-hearted Vic was this whole time. And I actually love I don't love his death scene, but I love like how it happened, because I thought Oz was just going to kill him in frustration. Like maybe he blamed him for his mom getting hurt or something. I was thinking that point throughout the whole series, but it happening in a really quiet moment when everything was said and done, and he made the conscious decision to do it right there. I think it really shows how awful Oz was this whole time, just to just kill him like that, right? And I love that. Like obviously it was fucked up, but it really showed how irredeemable Oz was this whole series, and how like good-hearted and not for this world Vic was, right? So that it really sucks, but that's just I thought it was really good writing there. So
yeah, we see Vic throughout these 8 episodes. We are introduced to him, and then we get to see his end, and it's like, okay, yeah, like we see the different points of his character that he had, where it's like, oh, okay, he could have ran away with his girlfriend, but instead he decided to stick around because he realized that the opportunity that Oz presented him was too good to pass up at the time. And obviously he was very good to Oz, and he was like, you know what, he feels comfortable to call him family, and then Oz is like, thank you, man, I'm gonna fucking kill you. I was like, okay. I was like, God fucking damn it. Yeah. Oz is not a good person. He is not going to butter up just because, this kid that he brought in is really liking him now and sort of, really appreciative of who he is and sort of his presence within his world. He's like, well, I'm gonna just end your shit right now, because, he cannot risk having him be someone that he now cares for. So he's just going to do it himself. And all he has to care about for it is now his mom, who, unfortunately, during that whole interrogation sequence, she saw her her sons, and then she fucking fell on the floor, and now she's in a vegetative state. So, you know, she might have gotten the penthouse view that she wanted, but at what cost, obviously.
Yeah, and she got, like, you know, earlier in the season, she was like, if I ever get to this state, just shoot me in the head. And now he's never going to do that. So she's basically living like her own hell because, you know, she let this monster basically live. I mean, she got what she wanted, but like you said, now she's like a vegetable, and like now Oz won't even finish her off. So now she's just kind of there living her life, right? So, and I do love that final scene at the end. Where Oz is just like, he's at the top of his penthouse. He has everything, and he's just like, oh, I can never get higher than this. And then you see the fucking bat signal right there. One is funny because it's funny, but two, it just shows that Batman is always going to be higher than any of these like criminals, no matter how high their empire is, right? Because he's always going to find them. I thought that was pretty good too, and it was hype just to see like any Batman stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, he's gonna beat the shit out of him. So yeah, really cool to see all of that stuff. You know, I think they did a great job. Like just all the characters were like really engaging. Like Sophia too. Like Sophia was a great
we cannot sleep
antagonist.
On her.
And, yeah, like she was a great antagonist, and I'm happy to see her that she's probably going to be coming back in like maybe the later Batman stuff. So because she was a great. You know, I mean, she's kind of like the hero at the end, but you know, I guess antagonist for this series is concerned. You know, her acting was great. Her like all her like backstory stuff was awesome. So I really do hope we see more Sophia in the future because she's a great character, and I think they did a great job with her.
Yeah, you know, just like what's it called when it was like, you know, she kidnaps Francis, and then it was like, all right, well, I'm gonna just blow up your whole fucking operation. I was like, oh shit, like these guys are just like bad people. I was like, okay, yeah, I love that. You know, we are having a sort of mobster war where it's like no one's holding back and no one's really sort of, you know, going the easy way, if you will. So and then when fucking Oz actually does like his goddamn chess game where he actually puts everything together, he pins everything onto Sophia. He tells that sort of that guy at the house or whatever, the
politician guy,
the courthouse, and it's like, okay, yeah, like he's just like feeding him this bullshit, and then he just regurgitates it on TV. I'm like, bro, you fucking kidding me? Like that actually worked, because when he was telling it to him, I was like, oh shit, he's like piecing it all together in like such a elegant way where it's like you have to believe him, right? Like how does he know all of this shit, and how and you know, the fact that Sal died at his feet, and then he also ended up just fucking shooting him because, you know, he's a goddamn psycho. He's like, I'm gonna make sure you're fucking dead. And then, you know, he uses everything that happened to him and then just pin it on Sophia. And then eventually when he's gonna kill her, and then he just ditches, and then the cops show up, I'm like, oh fuck. That's like actually worse than death for her, because obviously we know what happened to her at Arkham, and for her to go back in there because of the shit that obviously she was a part of, but not to that extent, was just, man, like this guy Oz is fucking crazy. And obviously if Sophia ever gets out, it's over. It's probably over for him. Like, she is not going to play these stupid ass games with them anymore, especially after everything that happened. So yeah, you know, this 8-episode series was great. I think there's talks of a season 2. Honestly, I'm of the opinion where I feel like sequels in 2024 are not necessarily a good thing unless you have a continuous story to tell. Very good point is fucking Joker 2. You know, they had all of the pieces to the kingdom there, and then they just flubbed it all up. I feel like the Penguin could continue to live on maybe within other spin-off series that they'll do, or obviously within the normal Batman movies. But I feel like with this version of Oz, you know, I feel like that we got everything from him, and this is where his story ends here, and then we could see him do all of his, you know, sort of Penguin mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I feel like the next time I want to see him is like in a Batman thing, right? Like, I feel like having a straight season 2 would feel weird. Like, I feel like to set all this stuff up, it would be weird not to just have Batman at this point, right? So also be like, where the fuck is Batman, right?
Yes.
So you can only keep him in the dark for so long. So yeah, the next thing I want to see with him is like, you know, him versus Batman or something. So, but again, we don't really know what they're doing for like Batman 2 just yet. I don't think so. Whenever that comes out, we'll see. Hopefully it's better than Joker 2, because that was really bad. So but yeah.
But yeah, is that everything you got to say, Damian? Or?
Yep, I think that's everything I have.
All right, so thank you guys for listening to the Travis and Damian podcast, episode 151. We will see you guys 2 weeks from now with another episode.
See ya.